Well, John, we just entered into the new year. So what does 2023 look for you? What are you excited about this year? What are you doing new? What are you changing?
I mean, I'm riding this wave of video. I mean, that's for sure. So, I mean, my hope is that long term, because I work with a lot of agencies and advertisers generally, right? And that's kind of what my community and what my audience is.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the High Level Spotlight Sessions, where we showcase awesome marketers doing awesome marketing. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by a legend, Mr. Jon Loomer. He is an accidental marketer and founder of Jon Loomer Digital. Jon, thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, man, thanks so much for having me, Chase.
So I got that intro from Jon, and the accidental marketer part has me very intrigued. You tripped and fell into marketing? What's the story there?
Well, it's weird because like I'm not your natural marketer. I was a philosophy major in college.
Okay.
So my first exposure to sales was my first real job, I guess, as a telemarketer. Nice. And I was horrendous at it because I hated telemarketers. So like someone would tell me no, I said, okay, have a good day. Yeah. And so like nothing I did really, I would say nothing, but like eventually I started getting into like, this sounds like I'm on a tangent, but fantasy sports for business purposes. And that led me to the NBA. And when I worked for the NBA, I didn't even realize what I was doing. A lot of times was marketing, because it was like overseeing everything, right? It was overseeing content and like the magazine and, you know, our latest product and create new products and things like that. But I've never been someone who likes to sell anything. So that's why it's like, okay, I got laid off a couple of times and then needed to do something, started a website, had to create a product, had to make money. But I'm not like one of those people who is like, who's all over the place trying to pitch stuff to you. You know, it's like, it's always been a soft pitch for me. Like you come to my website, you've been there a lot. Maybe one day you'll buy from me. Doesn't have to be today. And that's kind of the way I've always approached it. So that's why I consider myself more of an accidental marketer.
Well, I can relate. I'm the same way. I hate having to sell things. I prefer if people just choose to buy them. But I will say, you know, I've been doing this for a while, and you were everywhere. I mean, I feel like there was a time when Jon Loomer was all over my feed left and right. And I'm curious. So like, you know, you were obviously established as one of the top Facebook ad experts or Facebook experts in general, I would say. Did that come from your time at the NBA? Is that where you kind of cut your teeth?
Yeah. So back in 2007, I still remember there was like this young kid straight out of college who came into my office. He was like, hey, we should work with the Facebook. We should do something with the Facebook. And I could not wrap my brain around whatever it was he was talking about. So he didn't convince me. He convinced somebody else that we should partner with the Facebook and someone who was higher up than me. And so we partnered with the Facebook to create an app. So that was before you could create your own app. And that was right when it was opening up to everyone who was older than high school and college. So there were only 50 million people on the platform at the time. And so I needed to create a profile in order I was supposed to help manage the first NBA Facebook group before there were pages. That's just how long ago this was. So that was my first exposure. And from a personal standpoint, I just fell in love with the platform because I was a kid who moved around a lot growing up. And so there's so many people in my life who was like, I'm never going to hear from them again. And all of a sudden you just put in a little search and there they are, like, oh my God. And then you're connecting with them. And it's crazy. So I fell in love with the platform, but I was also using it from a business point of view, moved around a little bit, did some things, but I was getting experience, you know, with Facebook, and eventually Facebook ads. And then when I started my brand, I was using Facebook ads to promote it. And that's ultimately what led to this, because it wasn't so much as like, I want to start this Facebook ads education business. I just created a website, started writing about stuff because I had nothing better to do. I had to fill my time, didn't have a job. And I wanted to start building that brand. I used Facebook ads to promote it. And then I started telling people and teaching people how I was doing this. And that's really what ended up sticking.
I can remember going through your tutorials on things of like, well, I'm in Facebook and that button isn't there. What the heck? And then I'd like find a Jon Loomer tutorial and it would be up to date. And I'd be like, okay, now I understand where I need to go. How frustrating was that? I mean, Facebook has changed, interfaces so many times over the years. I can't even imagine how many times you had to go back and redo content.
Well, it's good and bad. It's good because if Facebook stayed the same forever, no one would need me.
Sure.
They just learn it and that would be it. But the fact it's always evolving and changing and creating frustration and confusion creates a need for my services. But beyond that, I mostly gave up on like updating stuff because like in the early days, those first couple of years, I was writing every day. So, I've written, over 1,000 blog posts over the years, and I've updated some of the stuff that's like, I think it was last year or the year before, I just had sat down, I was like, okay, I've got to do this. Like there's certain blog posts that are kind of like cornerstone about a topic. Like we'll say it's like custom audiences or something like that. It's so outdated. Instead of creating a new blog post, I just need to update it. So I went through and just started updating stuff. But beyond that, that's one of the problems like with training, right? I created training and I focus on it being live for the most part because of the understanding that in 3 months from now, it may no longer be relevant, or there might be a huge change. And that's just something I've had to embrace. It's also why, like, for the most part, my focus is on live generally. Like it's a community is the source of my revenue. And it's just teaching stuff in real time and not worrying about, I've got to update this thing.
And as somebody who committed to the challenge of staying current and being a teacher of what is current, did Facebook ever bring you into the fold? Like, did you get sort of like a direct pipeline of new information from them?
So this was always an uncomfortable place for me, right? So on one hand, you want to take advantage of those types of opportunities to get an inside voice and whatnot. The other hand, I think this starts with getting accusations of being told that you're being paid by Facebook and that you're a shill for Facebook and things like that. And then and just not wanting that. I mean, we didn't even buy Facebook stock, which obviously ended up maybe being a regret to a point. But it's like, I don't want there to be any doubt about whether you could trust my information and it being completely just not inspired by, I'm going to get paid for this by Facebook or by some other person for telling you this. So like if Facebook does something I don't like, I will tell you that they did something I didn't like. So I think in the early going, like an example would be I had, there's a developer on Power Editor. Remember Power Editor from way back in the day? That was before there was Ads Manager. And I would kind of go back and forth with him. It's like, what, this feature would be great or something like that. And beyond that, like there was a PR contact I had for a while.
So wait, are you saying that he would listen to you and you directly influence the product in some ways? That's pretty cool.
I'm not gonna take a whole lot of credit, but we had some back and forth. But yeah, I mean, it got a little uncomfortable for me. It went for everybody, but they were talking about bringing me out and stuff, and I don't like it.
So you've never been to the campus?
I've never even been to the campus. But the funny thing is, like, I've heard from people who work at Facebook who will tell me that they've been following my stuff for years, and like they're on the development team. And there's someone who told me this a few months ago that they know that a feature took off once I've written about it.
That's cool.
Which was pretty cool and made me feel really good. So I've never really had that really deep connection with Facebook. I know that disappoints people a lot of times. They're like, if they've got this problem, I'll contact Jon. He'll have a connection. He'll put me in touch with somebody. And like, I have none of that. I have no magic fingers at all. But so that was intentional then.
That's smart. I mean, it's smart and it's commendable. So I can completely understand. So talk to me about the transition. I mean, we've all seen kind of, Instagram blew up and then they bought them, and which made total sense. And now they've retained, dominance over everything. And then in comes TikTok and, has just been changing things at a rate that I don't think we've ever seen before. How has that been for you? I mean, did you jump on TikTok right away? Were you hesitant?
I did not. You know, it's funny, like I think as recent as probably September of last year, I still thought TikTok was kind of a joke. I thought of it as dances and memes, and like even when people are doing business type videos, they're always pointing at text on the screen and stuff like that. And I was like, this is dumb. I get it. So I refused to really jump on board with that forever. I was stubborn and trying to do things the way I've always done them, but it really got to the point, really as a business, I try to do everything the way I'd always done it, which is like I've accidental marketer, also accidental CEO. I've never started a business before. So when you start a business, you've never started a business before, you're not necessarily thinking about, I want to create a business that is going to last 10, 20 years from now. I was just like, I just want to create a business that makes me money right now. And so I found ways to be efficient, and I really was avoiding change at all costs. And eventually that hurt my business, it hurt everything. So it came to a point where it's like, I got to put up or shut up. I got to do something different. What's it going to be? And the glaring, obvious change I needed to make was I needed to start creating videos, which I had avoided. So beginning in October, I completely committed to it, created some really bad videos to start, but just started like, recording and editing, publishing 2 or 3 videos a day. And I'm eventually then carried that over from TikTok to Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, even YouTube Shorts, even though I can't get any traction there. I'm using those videos for LinkedIn, also using some of those videos, the audio of them for my podcast, little podcast shorts. And it's been eye-opening. It's like, hearing from people, because the emotional connection you can make with people through video. And I just feel kind of silly that it took me this long to get there.
Well, I feel like it's kind of nice in a way that TikTok dominated so hard that Meta had to pivot themselves, and now the format is kind of the same. You make the content and it plays on all 3, and now YouTube Shorts as well.
Right.
I was interested to hear you're getting no traction there. It's funny because I think I've seen a lot of people echo that, but bet long-term on YouTube Shorts because of the fact that it indexes and YouTube is actually a search engine. And so do you think the views will come around as those sort of mature?
Yeah. And I have seen like some that did okay. I think, look, I never listen to one person's experience with something and say, okay, that never works. Like I've accumulated 14,000 subscribers on YouTube over 11 years or whatever. I imagine most of those people aren't active anymore. Maybe they don't care about marketing anymore. Maybe they've all retired because they're old now because it's been so long. But so like the fact that I have those subscribers really doesn't do anything. Now I'm also not deeply invested in the YouTube platform. So I'm not in there like, watching other people's stuff and doing all the things you really need to do if you're committed to a platform. But you're right. It is very helpful. Like my commitment really wasn't so much to TikTok, even though like I did say like I want to become, the biggest, most followed Facebook advertiser on TikTok. But the truth is that doesn't even matter because the format's the same. I can apply that to Facebook Reels, to Instagram Reels, to these other platforms. And that's really where overall I'm making the biggest impact. I mean, the old practice of sharing links that I've always done because it's driven good traffic for me wasn't working as well anymore. Even with the 195,000 or whatever followers on Facebook, start creating these videos. And I've never really used Instagram for the same reasons we've been talking about. I've only used it as a placement, and then start publishing those videos. And all of a sudden I'm hearing from so many people like, oh, I haven't seen you in years, like, which was kind of painful a little bit. It's like, I've been creating stuff. You haven't seen it. It's because I was doing it wrong because I was stubborn. But so that's been the biggest thing for me is like, it's not even one particular platform like, oh, that exploded. It's just this commitment to the format. And look, I'm only a few months into this. I'm already seeing impact it's this new, again, emotional connection I'm making with people that I hadn't made in several years.
So have you seen any explosions on TikTok? I mean, you hear that like it's the one platform where you could just be a brand new account and throw up a great video and get 1 million views in, a day.
I haven't had anything like that. Comparison, it's a really good comparison because I have about the same number of followers. I think about 6,000 followers on TikTok. I just hit 5,000 on Instagram. And every once in a while, I'll have a video on TikTok that might get 15, 20,000, maybe a little bit more than that followers. My best video so far on Instagram was yesterday. It was like 14,000, not followers, views, plays. Yesterday was 14,000 plays. And so it's like, I don't think I'm necessarily your go viral material, but it's
don't sell yourself short, Jon.
But it does well, right? So it's getting to a point where I'm getting, way more engagement than I've seen in a long time. And it's tougher to manage, and it's good. It's good.
So let me ask you, because I'm sure there's a bunch of folks in the community watching right now who are kind of at that same point too, where it's like, all right, I get it. I'm going to have to make this transition into creating this form of video. Have there been any tools or tips or whatever that you've picked up along the way that's made the process of creating these videos a lot easier for you?
Yeah, look, first of all, just use the app, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, whatever, and start following these videos. I think that was probably was most valuable to me, because I went into it thinking I'm just going to record a video and publish it and hopefully people engage with it, without really thinking about how people engage with it and like what does well on the platform. And like, and then having the experience of having a feed and being like, after 3 seconds, nope, flipping to the next one. Like, why was it that I did that? And what is it that I need to do? And kind of learning from that first. So, but also follow people who know what they're talking about, and stuff like you really appreciate their videos. Like, oh man. And then you start asking them questions. That's one of the things I was doing. I started asking, like, what do you use for captioning? I mean, that was one of the things I asked people a whole bunch of times early on, and now I get these questions all the time. Like, what do I use for captioning? And the truth is this, like, when it comes to software, like, I'm always kind of hesitant to tell people, because I use what I'm comfortable with. It's not that, and it's not even stuff that was made for this. Like, I use ScreenFlow because I've used ScreenFlow for.
I was just gonna say, are you using ScreenFlow? Because that's what I use too.
Yeah, I've used it for a decade. So I have my iPhone, which records all of my headshot stuff, sitting on my desk, and at the same time I record ScreenFlow to pick up my microphone and pick up my screen when I need to do that. It is probably not the most efficient way to do things, but it's what I'm comfortable doing. Like, I've tried to use CapCut for the editing process. I maybe it's because of my experience with ScreenFlow that it doesn't work the way ScreenFlow does, and I don't like all the snapping and stuff that happens in there, that I find it frustrating. So I basically use ScreenFlow to do all of my editing, and then I move it over to CapCut for the captioning. And who knows, like 3 months from now, I might have a completely different process. So I understand that that's one of the most popular questions for anyone getting into it. But I think also, first of all, ask, what is the software that I use now that could be easiest to create and edit these videos? If you don't have anything, then yeah, you'll have to start taking some suggestions from people.
I mean, I can relate. We're building out a new product marketing team. And, when I sit down to think about things, we produce a lot of video, but it's all horizontal, right? And now it's like, so wait, are we really going to commit to like doing a second version of all these videos, or are we going to try to retrofit the horizontal into the vertical screen? I mean, there's a lot going on, and it is a lot to think about.
You can even, like, before I really started using TikTok and I've published a couple of things to it, you can tell that that's what I did. I recorded widescreen, and then I zoomed in and created that tall version, and it looked like garbage. And yeah, you can't do it that way. But I think for the most part, we're moving in a direction where there's nothing that's horizontal. for the most part.
Right.
There's very little that's horizontal anymore. So either we're going to be straight 9x16, or it's going to be 4x5, or it's going to be square, but there's very little horizontal. I mean, I know YouTube, you still have that, but
which is kind of weird, right? Do you use like Apple TV? Do you
yeah.
Do you use YouTube on your TV?
I don't.
So like I do it all the time. I love to
That would make
watch
sense,
my
yeah.
YouTube subscriptions on TV, and it's so weird with the shorts because they dominate the feed now, and it's like these 10-second clips on my TV that are like this. So I'm like, this is such a weird point that we're at right now. Like somebody needs to figure this out.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer for that, but it absolutely, that was seriously one of the obstacles for me. It was like, how do I record this and be good for that platform, for that? Because everything I'd done was wide. And the first thing was understanding is like, oh, I don't need some special camera. Like these phones are really good.
That's one of the best parts, right? And like I find a lot of TikTok stuff that works well is just holding your phone and pointing at your screen, like filming my screen, and people don't care. Like that seems to be what they want to see.
Yeah, I refuse to go that route, but a lot of people do it. A lot of people do it because I also like because I don't like showing like my ad account ID and stuff like that. Like I make sure to like be able to edit it out and stuff. But no, I mean, so I used a iPhone 12, I think, before, and I just got a new iPhone 14 Pro. Like, oh, it's so good. Like it's certainly better than anything I could do with my webcam, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So. That's awesome. Well, Jon, we just entered into the new year. So what does 2023 look for you? What are you excited about this year? What are you doing new? What are you changing?
I mean, I'm riding this wave of video. I mean, that's for sure. So, I mean, my hope is that long term, because I work with a lot of agencies and advertisers generally, right? I mean, that's kind of what my community and what my audience is. But I understand I've got something here with this video stuff, because there's so many people who are like me just a few months ago. They're like, they know they need to get into it, but how? So I think I'm gonna, as this builds up, I think I'm gonna be helping people more and more on that side of things as well, whether it's starting a video editing agency or whatever that may be. It's going to be new territory. My life is changing. This is kind of a weird tangent. It's going to seem like, but last summer was like when everything kind of broke for me, in that my middle son moved on to college. So my two oldest are in college. My youngest son moved on to high school. So for the last 16 years, I've been a baseball coach for my kids. and it's taken up so much of my time that honestly, it's been hard to focus on business, especially the last few years. So once my youngest moved on to high school, it's been, okay, now it's time to work. And so it's been a new life for me, and just trying to figure out, what is my purpose and how can I help people the most now?
That's interesting. I feel like there's kind of two levels to the challenge, right? It's first getting agency owners, consultants doing it for themselves. And then the next question becomes, well, how can we sell this in a scalable way to our clients, right? How do we then get our clients to be able to do this so that we can help them succeed? And I think they're two unique challenges that there's, it's an open sea for the folks who, figure this out.
It is a challenge, right? I mean, as an agency and managing clients, on one hand, you really want the client to do some of the work. Like when it comes to social media, because they know their business better than anybody. They know their voice. They have, the cameras and the people around and all that kind of stuff. And you want them to take control of some of that stuff. But not all of them have the time or willingness to do it. And sometimes they just want someone else to do it for them. So that I think that's where video could absolutely come into play, whether it's, okay, telling the client, now go video this stuff, tell them what to do, send it to us, and we'll cut it up for you.
Yeah, that can work pretty well, right? Are you in on sort of the trends? Because I feel like a big part of this style of video is a trend pops up and it's like, oh, okay, you're supposed to like do this for 2 seconds and then cut to this or whatever. And then, that's what people want to see this week. Are you up on the trends yet?
No, this is where I'm still an old fogey. Well, here's the problem. I think it's misguided for those of us who want a very focused audience, right? Like you shouldn't really want. I don't want to say you don't want to go viral. Like, you certainly have benefits of that, but if you go viral, that means that you are mainstream and you created something that appeals to everybody, right? But if you have a very focused potential client, do you really want that? Right. So, because then next thing you know, you have a huge potential audience, but just like Facebook, just like anything else, if you have a bunch of people who follow you, don't care about your real stuff, not just your viral thing, but your real stuff, your day to day, they're just going to tune you out. And that's bad for the algorithm. So that's a good
point. If you go viral and you gain a bunch of followers who the next day realize, wait a minute, I don't want to follow this person, that could be shooting yourself in the foot.
So when it comes to trends, I kind of look at, again, this might be the wrong way to look at it, and maybe I just need to get there. But I see it the same way. Like I'm going to create stuff that I think is interesting, that's going to appeal to my target audience. I'm not going to let someone else that sounds so old saying this. I'm not going to let someone else's trend tell me what kind of content to create today. I see the trends as being, what is my audience talking about the most right now? What do they care about? What are they asking about? As opposed to what dance should I do or something? What filter should I use or, whatever. I just, as a business owner, I don't see any of those things as being important.
I think that was a really good tip, right? Or a place to start. If I work, we used to work with a lot of med spas. I mean, you can't go wrong with that kind of hat on, right? Well, what are our customers interested or curious about or wondering what's new in our industry that they have questions about? I mean, that's a pretty tried and true way to create content. What do you say?
Anything. That's how I wrote over 1,000 blog posts over the years. I mean, all of that was pretty much answering questions. What are people, asking me already? What do I think they might be asking? And writing a blog post about it. It's the same thing with videos.
Have you dabbled with any of the new AI stuff?
With ChatGPT? Yeah, it's a little scary. Look, you're talking to a guy who took this long to even get into video, and now you're going to tell me to use AI. And look, it's scary to us who've been around for a while because we immediately see ways that it can replace us, right? But there's also a matter of, first of all, you should probably not be scared of that, understand how it works, and be able to leverage it more than anything. And that's what I'm trying to focus on the most. Like I wrote a blog post about ChatGPT and how it can impact marketers and things like that. And one of the things I did was I fed ChatGPT the content of that blog post, and I said, hey, give me 3 blog post title ideas. And I used one of those ideas, like, yeah, that's pretty good title. So stuff like that. Like yesterday, I think it was, or a couple of days ago, I did a video using ChatGPT to generate purchase event code for your Pixel, because it's me personally, I'm not like a super technical guy where I don't just have it memorized. If I need to put it in I'd go find it. But here you just like type in your situations, like, hey, generate Pixel event code for a purchase of this product of this value, and it generates it and copy and paste it. So it's stuff like that. Like there are opportunities to make us better at our jobs too. Now there are opportunities to make us lazy as well. Like I'm not totally on board with having ChatGPT writing articles for my website.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I will say, I think it was yesterday. It was sort of late in the day. My brain was like starting to fog up, and I was trying to help somebody, I think, with a nurture sequence ideas. And I was like, wait a minute, let's try this chat thing. So I hopped in. I'm like, what are 10 common concerns about whatever? And it spit them out. And I'm like, well, here we go. We have 10 email topic ideas. So now we just write, have your client answer these 10 things the way they would, and you've got 10 pieces of great nurture content.
Exactly.
That's amazing. I mean, I think I look forward to using it in situations like that.
It's great for brainstorming, and you run into writer's block or something like that. I mean, I had asked it, like one of the videos I did actually, as I asked it, what are the primary obstacles that Facebook advertisers face? And like, man, I mean, and the thing is, I've asked it that multiple times, and it comes up with a different answer every time. But it's like, yeah, those are good answers. And so I think look, you're absolutely going to have people who can really easily generate a website like that, because they're just going to say, hey, write me an article, blah, 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 blah. And then it's going to write a whole bunch of articles. And I'm really curious to see where that goes. Right. So first of all, would like Google and other search engines care whether it's AI generated?
Google has said that they will care, and they don't like it. So that's interesting to consider.
Well,
so Google has, they've taken a stance of like, we don't want to see artificially generated content, and we're going to try to figure out if it is or not.
But here's the thing. What if the user doesn't care? Because isn't that really what matters?
That's what they say is most important.
Right. So that's where I struggle, is like, I don't, as a marketer, I'm like, and someone who writes, I hate the idea that someone would just throw up a website with 1,000 blog posts on it that they didn't write and put in the work in it, and it could actually be decent. That said, like, if you don't have, I try to, always, I think from our perspective, we always want to say like why that's not going to be as good. I think not having a true personality behind it, I think, will be a negative. Like not having perspective, right? Like AI can't really provide perspective or life lessons or life experiences and things like that you can inject into these articles, or they can make it up, I guess.
It spits out a lot of inaccuracies and falsehoods too.
But very convincingly though.
Yeah, exactly, which makes it even more dangerous in some regards. But I like the script thing. That's a really interesting, I've been telling myself I should play with it with CSS, like generate me some CSS for whatever, because I don't remember any of the CSS stuff.
Oh, I'm terrible at CSS. I have to do a Google search of CSS all the time.
Right. So what if I get good at just asking the right questions for it to spit out CSS? That could be super helpful in my day-to-day. So
and I think about like my website. People come to my website looking for answers. Like that'd be pretty awesome if there's some sort of chat extension to my website where it learns from the content on my website. People ask it questions, and it's just like the real person's answering it.
Wow, you just made me think of, what if you combined it with like a Hotjar or a Microsoft Clarity, like the heat mapping stuff, where it's like it just starts talking to you like, hey, I'm noticing that people aren't scrolling past the first 2 paragraphs of this page. You should probably go work on those 2 paragraphs.
Right. I mean, well, that's the other thing. Like people have used it to, like, they will write an article, put it into ChatGPT and say, hey, clean it up, clean up the grammar or whatever, and it will. And so it could potentially make us better writers. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, I think that's the main thing, is like we shouldn't, there's lots of reasons to be kind of concerned about it, and hopefully we'll take care of the things that are unethical. But from a marketer's point of view, there's so many powerful things that can make us better and more efficient in our jobs too.
John, I could chop it up with you all day, but I want to be cognizant of your time. Your community is the Power Hitters Club, correct? Tell me about that, and who's it for?
Yeah, so I started it, I think about 9 years ago now, and it was a private community, Power Hitters Club. You can learn more about it at powerhittersclub.com, and it's primarily for agencies and those who advertise for others. And so we, in addition to the private Facebook group where you can, build relationships with other people and kind of answer questions and get answers from the community, I have weekly strategy sessions where it's honestly pretty great, because I learn from these people who are in there as well. I'm just like, what is everyone else seeing? Okay, I've got this problem. How would you all approach this? So that's like a live 1 hour session we do every week. I do live webinars once a week, get access to any training I've done, and also get to book one-on-ones at a huge discount. So that's Power Hitters Club. So go to powerhittersclub.com, but you can also just go to jonloomer.com and get my free stuff too.
Awesome. Jon, I really appreciate you coming on, hang out with us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chase, man. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.